Mrs. Maccabee's Miracle by Elka Weber, illustrated by Amelie Vidello. Mrs. Maccabee's Miracle. The Maccabees' house in Modin was full of happiness and noise. Mr. and Mrs. Maccabee and their 5 sons were a jolly, busy family. A few times a year, the Maccabee men would go to Jerusalem to help in the Holy Temple. "Mom, have you seen my traveling cloak? Cloaks don't grow legs and walk away. Where you leave them is where they stay. I still can't find it. On the hook near the window. Thanks, Mom." When the Maccabees weren't helping in the temple, they spent their time studying and teaching the Torah. "Mom, have you seen my scroll? Scrolls don't grow legs and walk away. Where you leave them is where they stay. I still can't find it. On the table. Thanks, Mom." One day, a Greek kingdom led by King Antiochus took over the land of Israel and passed a law that Jews couldn't study Torah anymore. But the Jews wanted to keep studying Torah. In order to fool the Greeks, they came up with a plan. They took their spinning tops with them whenever they studied. If they saw a Greek soldier who might suspect they were studying, they quickly took out their spinning tops and pretended they were just playing a game. "Mom, have you seen my spinning top? Tops don't grow legs and walk away. Where you leave them is where they stay. I still can't find it. In the box under your bed. Thanks, Mom." The Greeks made life harder and harder for the Jews. Finally, the Jews decided to fight back. "Mom, have you seen my spear? Spears don't grow legs and walk away. Where you leave them is where they stay. I still can't find it. Next to the door. Thanks, Mom." The Maccabees fought very bravely. Although they were only a small army, they beat the mighty Greeks. As soon as the final battle was over, the Maccabees went straight to the temple in Jerusalem. Their first task was to find a jug of oil to relight the great menorah. But the Greeks left a big mess, and the Maccabees couldn't find the oil anywhere. They looked, they searched, and they hunted, but without luck. "What would Mom say?" they asked each other. And they could hear her voice saying, "Jugs of oil don't grow legs and walk away. Where you leave them is where they stay." Lo and behold, they remembered where they'd last seen the little jug of oil before the great battle. There wasn't much oil left in the jug, just enough to last for a day. But when they relit the menorah, the flames burned not for just one day, but for 8 whole days. Every year, in the happy, noisy house in Modin, Mrs. Maccabee would tell the story of Hanukkah to her jolly, busy family. "And then the Maccabees found a small jug of oil to light the menorah," she would say, nodding at the twinkling lights, "without my help." "Indeed," she would say, "a great miracle happened here." The story of Hanukkah. Over 2,000 years ago, a king named Antiochus controlled Israel. Antiochus was powerful and ruthless. He wanted all the people under his rule to abandon their own religious practices to follow the customs of Greek culture. He denied Jews the right to observe Shabbat, a Jewish holiday, Jewish dietary laws, and other important Jewish rituals. It became dangerous for people to even identify themselves as Jewish. Some Jews adopted Greek culture and religion. They stopped studying Torah and observing the Sabbath, but other Jews did not give up their heritage and religion. Strong resistance rose up in the countryside, particularly in Modin, a town west of Jerusalem where a priest named Matthias lived with his 5 sons. Matthias was well respected. The king's soldiers wanted him to be the first to step forward and show loyalty to the king. He answered loudly and clearly. He would not worship idols or forsake Judaism. With his sons by his side, Matthias fled to the mountains to organize a revolt against the king. When Matthias died, he turned over his leadership to his son Judah. Judah's bold fighting style earned him the nickname Maccabee, meaning hammer. Judah, his brothers, and growing band of followers waged war against the king. They were called the Maccabees, and they found success through night raids and sneak attacks. Their courage fighting in large and well-equipped army inspired Jews all over the country. In one famous battle, the Maccabees even faced soldiers who were riding trained war elephants. In 164 BCE, after 3 years of fighting, the Maccabees gained control of the temple in Jerusalem. This was as much a spiritual victory as a military one. Now the Jews could rededicate their most sacred house of worship. The temple and its grounds were in terrible conditions. The sanctuary was filthy. Ornate doors had been burned. The golden menorah that once burned with 7 branches of continuous torchlight was gone. The Maccabees tore their clothing as a sign of mourning. They wailed and wept. Then they got to work. First, they scrubbed the temple from top to bottom. They pulled weeds and made repairs. Some sources say the Maccabees made a makeshift menorah from iron spears. Others say a gold 7 branched lamp was created. On the 25th day of the Hebrew month of Kislev, the new menorah was lit and the temple was rededicated. In Hebrew, the word Hanukkah means dedication. The very first Hanukkah lasted 8 days, just like the fall harvest of Sukkot. During wartime, the Maccabees couldn't take a week to observe Sukkot properly, so they celebrated for 8 days during the rededication of the temple. This is the historical view of the first Hanukkah holiday. However, rabbinic tradition gives another reason for the 8 day celebration. It was said that the Maccabees needed oil to light the menorah. They searched the temple. All they found was one small cruse of sealed purified oil, only enough to last one day. Instead of delaying the ceremony for 8 days until more oil could be obtained, the Maccabees lit the menorah anyway. Miraculously, the small amount of oil burned for 8 full days. The legend known as the miracle of the oil encourages us to remember a triumph of faith along with the military conquest. When we light Hanukkah candles, we are celebrating religious freedom. We are sharing a belief that determined individuals can successfully fight for justice. Hanukkah is also called the Festival of Lights. May the light of freedom always burn brightly in our homes and in our hearts.